Thank you guys, both online and in person. Tonight's talk is relaxation techniques. Let me turn this down a little brighter than I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some basic stuff because we have a lot of new people who don't know the brain waves and how the brain actually works. And then we'll get into some different techniques that you can use to actually calm yourself down to be able to deal with life and life's experiences. Before we begin, the goal of these talks is to help empower each and every one of you to be able to help every person you meet. So I want you to get better, yes, but I want every single person that you meet to be able to get healthy and you be the light that helps somebody else. So with that being said, what are we going to look at? We're going to look at brainwaves first, do an explanation on that. Then we're going to go into the brain, how it deals with stress, how it reverts and goes back to normal. Then we're going to get into different changes in blood flow, different changes in experience, and then we'll get into some actual techniques that you can use to relax. So the brainwaves that we're going to look at, the first one we'll talk about is the stress brainwave. So beta. Beta, when I explained it to you all, was the stress brainwave, but it's not that simple. Beta can be subdivided into multiple sections. The one I like is a 2 division, but there are up to 4 depending on the researcher that you talk to. So high beta is 27, or 26, to 38. And low beta is 13 to 25. What is the difference here? If you're looking at the frontal cortex or the very front of the brain, and that's how I like to explain it, high beta is mania, high stress, racing thoughts, go, 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 go. Low beta is actually memory and function. So low beta is actually high stress, but this is like, I need to take a test, but I can still remember things. Low beta is still very productive. The problem is in the back of the brain, both of these, we don't want too much of it. So in the back of the brain, we want half beta to theta. And theta is another brainwave that we're going to talk about. So then we're going to look at alpha. Alpha is memory. Alpha is being in the zone, in the flow. Alpha is when everything is working correctly for you. In the frontal lobe, that's going to be the function when you're just feeling connected, jiving, waking up on the right side of bed. There's high and low alpha. High alpha is 8 to 9 is low alpha, and 11 to 12 is high alpha. So high alpha is fast memory, IQ, immune system working correctly. Low alpha is dementia, decline, Alzheimer's in the frontal lobe. So what happens is, as we get older, if we start sleeping a lot, we'll actually slow our brain down, produce more low alpha, and then we'll start getting mental decline. We can also get immune function issues with this. When our brain makes more low alpha than high alpha, we'll literally start getting immune problems. So we can start getting autoimmune, cancers, different sicknesses and diseases will happen quicker because our frontal lobe won't process as quickly, so it won't be able to control our white blood cells. Now, between here is one that's only found in the motor cortex, or the middle part of the brain, and that's SMR. And SMR is 12 to 15. So you'll see it has alpha, but it also has beta in it. It's literally only found in the motor cortex. So SMR is the frequency right up here in the top of the brain that helps you move. If you have a problem with SMR, you're going to have ADD symptoms. You're going to have movement disorders. You're going to have processing issues. So if you have a problem right here on the top of your head, you're going to have problems actually seeing the world, processing it for it is, and you can actually have dissociation. We don't actually see the world for reality. You're actually just trying to interpret it, but your brain is so slow that you feel kind of out of what's going on. Does that make sense? Below that is theta. Theta, real simple, 3.5 to 8 hertz. This is light sleep. This is intuition. This is this is coming up with new ideas. This is when you wake up with an answer. You're actually been in theta. And then below that is delta. So delta is 1 to 3 hertz. Delta is deep sleep. Delta is tissue healing. So you ever heard of induced a coma? They put you in delta and they're trying to force you to heal tissue. Okay. Hey, yeah. Memory healing or emotional healing actually happens up here in alpha, theta, and SMR. So we've heard of REM, rapid eye movement. That's when you actually do mental processing on your emotions. You need 2 hours of REM every night for you to deal with your life and allocate what everything is happening. You need 1 hour of delta to actually heal your body. The rest of the time, you're cyclical. You're moving in and out and in and out and in and out. If you fall asleep and you do not move, this is a very, very, very big problem. You are supposed to move 12 times an hour.
If you sleep?
Yes. When you sleep, if you fall asleep and you wake up right where you are, we got big REM problems and we got big delta problems. It means you're not literally processing. This is how people get bed sores and stuff, is they're not moving, so the blood flow isn't getting in there and they can get problems. Movement is supposed to happen. On a side note, we've all been told belly breathing is really healthy. Well, guess what? Sleeping on your stomach is the quickest way to get yourself to heal. We've all been told it's bad. It's actually how you force the immune system to turn on. So all the COVID people that were really sick, they put them on their tummy to force them to use their vagus nerve to breathe, which literally pulled them out of COVID, and then they flipped them back on their back when they were really, really sick. So I'm just letting you know, if you can't sleep on your stomach, that's fine. But I'm just letting you know that it's really good because it forces you to belly breathe because you can't use your chest. So we looked at all the frequencies. Are we good with the frequencies? Yeah, we're doing good. Perfect. So now we're going to look at the brain, how it develops. And then we'll start understanding how it reverts. So when the brain develops, we're going to be looking at it from the side. When we are born, this is what we have. We have our brainstem. The reason you have no memories of birth is because your frontal lobe isn't working. You literally grow it. The first thing you have, and the only thing you have when you're born, are called primitive reflexes, which are your brains being primed to actually interpret and communicate with the world. And the one that drives most of this is called the moral reflex. If you're a parent, you've seen this. If you aren't, you'll learn it later on. When the child gets angry, they do this. They go, and they flick their head back, and then they hit you right in the chin, chip your teeth. That's the moral reflex. That's the anger reflex. Now, when they're first born, the child only operates from brainstem. They cannot interpret the world between happy or angry. That's literally all they have. It's either Moro on or Moro off. Well, how do you tell if the Moro is stuck on? How big are the pupils? How big are the pupils of babies? They're huge. That's how you know that they're extremely reactive. You can look at it and you see they're extremely reactive because they're literally stuck in fight or flight. Then what happens is you start developing the brain. So you will actually start developing the cerebellum. Well, what does the cerebellum do? It literally controls movement. It actually helps with motor movement. At the same time, you're going to start developing the motor cortex up here. The motor cortex makes the movement and the cerebellum follows through on it. So what happens? Baby starts lifting up their head. Motor cortex starts working, cerebellum starts working. Why is this important? Movement turns off brainstem from being the primary way of functioning. Why is brainstem important? That's fight or flight. That's anger. That's blood sugar. That's cortisol. That's insulin. That's your body going into protective mode. Have you ever been so angry that you can't even think straight? That's here. You're operating here. You're operating as a 1 to 2 year old. And then you understand why you want to be right. And you understand why everything has to be your way. And you understand why you're doing what you're doing. So if you're operating here, you cannot heal. Done. If you start operating here or here in the frontal lobe, you start healing. So how does the brain develop? It develops from the bottom to the top. So that means as the motor cortex turns on, it inhibits or downregulates the stress response. It also develops from the back to the front. So the front of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, its job is literally to control everything. But you don't get that until really going and online until you stand up. The act of standing and movement actually develops the frontal lobe. So you'll see this with all children. They'll be crawling, no talking, maybe blah, blah, blah. They stand up, within 3 to 6 months, they will talk because frontal lobe comes online. As long as there's no major insult, chemical, emotional, or physical, because that can slow the growth of that frontal lobe. Frontal lobe comes online, and literally now you can downregulate the emotional center in the brain, which is the limbic or the middle part of the brain. The fight or flight response, which is just like a reptilian response where it's just, I need to win, or I need to run, or I need to stop. That fight, flight, freeze. If you go into freeze, it's actually worse than fight or flight. So freeze is lower down on the stress response than fight or flight. If you fight or run, you're in higher brainstem. If you freeze, you actually shut down. Where does this come from? It comes from neonatal development. So what happens is when mama is stressed out, baby will get stressed out. If mom needs to run, should the baby have more oxygen, more blood, and more sugar going to it? No, because you can fatigue mom. So the baby's heart rate actually goes down. The baby's respiration rate goes down. The amount of sugar they consume goes down so mom can run away. So fetal distress is a dampening of that fight or flight response. Well, if you've been chronically stressed, everything goes down. So it is worse. You are more sick if you have a low blood pressure than a high blood pressure. Making sense? So if your blood pressure is around 100, we got problems. That means we're operating more in the slow state. Or you consume exactly no salt. So, any questions on this? We're doing good so far? Okay, perfect. So, what do you want to have working for you to heal, for you to not be stressed out? Motor cortex, if you want the location, this is called CZ. Frontal lobe, that's F3, F4, FZ. So when I talk about stuff, and if I'm talking about any of these or this one, I'm literally talking about turning off stress. Any of the F's, frontal lobe. CZ, motor cortex on the top. If this is not working correctly, brainstem takes over, go into fight or flight. What's an easy way to know if you're stuck in fight or flight besides this? There are physiological markers that tell me how stressed you are. Number one, how warm and cold are our hands and feet? If our hands and feet are colder than 94 degrees, we are stressed and it has nothing to do with how you feel. It's physiological stress. Why is that important? When your hands and feet are cold, it tells me you've actually changed where blood goes in your brain. Guess where it goes away from? Frontal lobe. When you stress out, you will move all the blood to your brainstem and middle brain and take it away from your frontal lobe. You will not be able to use your executive center. You will not be able to think clearly. You will not be able to do the tasks you want to do. So we can literally measure this. We can use a device and actually measure blood flow to the frontal lobe specifically. It's called PIR, passive infrared, and it can actually tell us the blood flow to the frontal lobe. But you can also have diversions of blood flow to different parts of the brain as well. How it works is the carotid, comes up, and there's literally the stress nerve, it's called the sympathetic chain ganglia. It actually wraps around it. And whenever that gets activated, it actually compresses and lets less blood into the brain. and pushes more into the brainstem. So why would that be productive? We can run and fight, we can react, but long term, we get degeneration in the frontal lobe and the top of the motor cortex. So when we measure this, we look at frequencies and it tells me, is this part of your brain fatiguing? Is this part of your brain fatiguing? That's what the numbers tell us. So let's say the person is stuck in stress and their motor cortex is not working correctly. Then the ratio of theta over SMR will be greater than 3.0. That means you have more slow brain wave. It means you're literally not processing the world. You're actually falling asleep. You're shutting your brain down. As a byproduct, not running fast enough, brainstem will start taking over. Cold hands, cold feet, less blood to the brain. You know you're going into the fight or flight response. What else will happen is if you're emotionally triggered, the limbic or the emotional center, the anterior cingulate gyrus, it literally is directly correlated to how sweaty your hands are. So the sweatier your hands are, the more stressed you are. It's literally directly correlated to emotional stress. It doesn't mean you feel emotionally stressed. It's literally your body's red flag saying, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. If you're really sweaty, it's short term. If they're chronically dry, it's even worse. And these are all things we can measure, all things we can train. So this tells us how we're stressed. So what is the goal of all of this? Make the top and the front of your brain work better, suppresses, turns down the stress response. Make sense? So how do we do that? There are different techniques that we can use. One of them we're going to go through, and I don't know if I have enough time to go through most of them, but we'll go through one of them at least. And so what we're going to do, this one, by doing this, will actually stimulate the motor cortex because you're actually going to move through your body. You're going to do a body scan, and you're going to move through your body and figure out where you're holding stress. When your frontal lobe becomes aware of something, the energy goes there. So if you guys ever watched Lord of the Rings, and you got Saruman's eye, and whenever it looks on something, the light comes in there. You guys know what I'm talking about? No? Okay. If you do, just follow along. If you don't, basically think of a flashlight, and wherever it is, you can see stuff. So it's like dark, and then you can see stuff. The same thing works with your frontal lobe. Wherever you visualize, all your consciousness goes there and then become aware of whatever's happening there. People can commonly have stress throughout their body and not even be aware of it. A lot of people will hold it in their eyes, tension, and their shoulders. So if you like those shoulder rubs, that actually tells me you're chronically stressed. If you're like, oh, those shoulder rubs are so good, it's like you are chronically stressed. So how do we do this? We're going to sit up. And then what we're going to do is we are going to feel our feet right now. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to squeeze them down as tight as we can. We're going to hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to pull them up as hard as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to relax them. Now feel your feet. Do you feel any change? Because when you contract and relax, you actually allow the tension to be removed from that area in your body. So then we're going to move up. What else can we do? Well, let's do our calves. So let's make our calves get really tight. If we can't do that, we can push our toes down. We're going to hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hold our feet up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we should start feeling the body actually relaxing. Because what we're doing is we're actually stimulating the motor cortex, allowing the muscle tension to come up and down. When your body feels tension, it will actually tell you that you're in stress. It will tell you to change your cortisol levels, your insulin levels. So then let's go to our quads. Make them as tight as we can. 1, 2, 3. If you need help, you can push them out straight. 3, 4, 5. And then maybe we'll do our hamstrings. We pull up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now what I want you to do is I want you to look at your body, just scan it and say, how does my legs feel compared to my arms and my chest. And you should feel a drastic difference. If you don't, just play with it because it'll help you. You may need to hold it a little longer, but it gets the tension out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze our glutes or our butt as tight as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to relax. A lot of people will hold tension in their glutes as well. This is a common area that I see coming in. So if you are somebody that has chronic low back pain, the emotional trigger for that is you don't want to deal with something in your life, either emotionally or physically, and your butt muscle will actually start fatiguing. So we'll chronically see this. Once we help the people actually get their glutes firing, then the emotions will actually come up because now they got to deal with it. So this is how it ties together. Now let's go into the abdomen. So let's make our tummy really tight. 3, 4, 5. Now, obviously, if you want to do this really aggressively or to get yourself really relaxed, go to 10 seconds, 15, 20, 30 seconds. And then let's make our back tight. So we're just going to pull back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can pull our chest together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can hold our arms as tight as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to squeeze just our hands as tight as we can. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then go out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As a side note, when you go into stress, you actually go into constriction. So you actually go into a C shape. The protection. So your body is made to actually be stronger to pull in tight to protect you than it is to push. That's why it's really hard to get really strong if you're doing like bench press or something like that, where it's easier to do pull downs or pull towards you because you want to protect your organs, protect your body very quickly. So if you say wake up and your arms are twisted, rolled in, or your hands are like that, that's actually telling me your body's chronically in stress. So the people who get carpal tunnel and they wake up like this and they try to put a sling or a splint on them, it's literally because their brain is stressed out and they're worrying about something. Once you can get the brain to work correctly and they stop worrying, the flexion will actually go away and you'll stop having the problem because it's a neurological thing. So the underlying stress is causing the problem. You don't need to cut the ligaments or cut the fascia or do different things. You just need to get the brain to actually work correctly. Now, the next one we're going to do is one everybody has issues with. So it's traps. So we're going to be pulling up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pulling down. Now, this is the one that most people miss, but is where probably 80 to 90% of us all hold stress. And it's actually in our face. So a lot of people, it's their jaw. And a lot of people, it's actually their eyebrows. So what we're going to do is we're going to clench our jaw tight. And then there we go. And we notice some people yawn. That's actually telling us that by doing this, this is actually stimulating that motor. And we're actually making the vagus turn on. When you yawn, you're actually causing the vagus nerve to work. There's also an emotional connection with it. So you're bonding with the people. Now, the next one we're going to do is we're going to squeeze our face as tight as we can. And then, so eyebrows down, eyebrows up. And if you want a little help, you can literally just pull across on your eyebrows. And you're going to feel that tension. Now, what I want you to be aware of is how much more relaxed you feel right now compared to where you just started. This is a simple, I don't want to say stupid, but it's a simple technique that literally just stimulates that motor cortex, which is part of the frontal lobe. When you do this, your body will then become aware, where does my tension actually need to be? It's like a reset. You're basically calibrating all your muscles. If you walk around with your arm tight all the time, that's actually feeding into your brain and telling it to be in a stress response. How the body works is if you pull your shoulders up and hold them up for long periods of time. You don't want to do this stuff. If you do that, you can actually trigger your heart rate to go up. You can trigger cortisol to fire because it will actually stimulate the nerves in your neck that will turn on stress. So the more you have your shoulders up, the more stressed you're going to be. The more your shoulders are down, the quicker you're actually going to heal. You guys have any questions on this? So this one we don't have a paper for. This is why I usually teach this one. This is the one you can do in bed to actually make yourself relax, to make yourself go forward. The other one you can do, there's one called progressive muscle relaxation. And we usually use this for people who have sleeping issues, and it's them visually feeling their muscles contract and relax. And if you want it, you can just ask for it. So these are easy ways to help you relax. Now, let me see. What else do we?
What's that? You just said if we want it, you can ask for it. What?
Yeah, it's called progressive muscle relaxation. I believe that's the name of it. It's in my folder. So up near the lamp, we have 5 different relaxation techniques. I just taught you one, but there's other ones like tapping, which helps with emotional release. There's other ones like diaphragmatic breathing, visualizations. I think there's a bunch of other ones. So there's 5. I know there's definitely 5 of them in there. And if you want to relax, I highly recommend getting it, working on it. If you have a problem staying in right brain, big picture, and you get stuck on little things and you keep ruminating on it, then you want to get the Stroop effect that we have. That's the color word thing. And that forces you to go right brain. It forces you to go to big picture, which makes you not get fixated on the ant, and then or not get fixated on the tree. You can actually see the forest. Not get fixated on my toe hurts, so everything's dying or something wherever you go. Because people do that all the time. Instead of it's just my toe, it's just this time, this all will pass. Like instead of just seeing the big picture for what it is. So doing that test, that Stroop effect, doing it repeatedly will actually pull you out of the stress effect as well. Now, an easy one that we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a simple vagal nerve stimulation technique. The more powerful of the two that I'm going to tell you about is the gargling. Now, when I say gargling, I need you to understand that you need to be crazy loud when you do this. I don't want you to be, doc, it's not working, I'm gargling. That is not going to work. Literally, you have to feel, if you don't put water in, you're going to get hoarse. That's what I want you to feel. If you don't have that vagus nerve working correctly when you gargle, you will not tear up. If you gargle correctly, you will tear up. The vagus nerve is the nerve that allows you to actually heal and relax. It feeds information in. The vagus is 60% information into the brain to help with emotional stabilization and to help with how you perceive the world. So when you gargle, you're going to put water in, you're going to put your head back, and you're literally going to scream. You're going to go, ah, and you're going to gargle until you hear and feel that little uvula, the dangle in the back of your throat moving. And that literally will force the nerve to work. If it doesn't work well enough, we have other devices that we can have you try out. But for most people, it will help. If you are not sure, well, does the nerve work for me or not? Take your toothbrush, touch the back of your tongue. If you don't gag, it doesn't work. Let me say that again. If you don't gag, it's not working. Why is that important? That nerve moves all the neurotransmitters into your brain so you can actually think, work, and experience reality correctly. It also controls how your digestive tract works. That's stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, rectum. It literally makes everything work. So if it's not working, we got big problems. So if you want to test your friends and family members, take the toothbrush, take a, whatever, have them test themselves. Do a gag? Everybody says, yeah, I gag. And then I go, well, touch the back of your throat and show me. And 9 out of 10 don't. So that's why they're sick. That's why they have problems. So if you have that, then we got to get it better. The adjustment stimulates it. The gargling stimulates it. We have other electrical ways to stimulate it, but we need it to work or you will not get better. So to end off, I want you to understand this week is our patient appreciation week. So if you've learned anything from tonight, share it with a friend. And if they want to figure out where they're at, let them know. They can come in and get an exam at a discounted rate. And because this week has filled up pretty quickly, we're going to extend it to Monday. So if you have a friend or family member who's still interested, we'll still do the discounted rate for $20 to make it easy to get in. It's less than going out to eat at any fast food restaurant now, basically. And from that, you'll be able to see how is the brain actually functioning, what's actually going on with me. I've been told it's in my head, or I've been told I'm crazy, or I've been told nothing really exists. And we'll be able to show you, yes, it's right here. This is what's going on. This is the function. And then they'll be able to validate it to know that they're not crazy. You don't know, like 90% of the people who come in here have all been told they're crazy. Because it's not on an MRI and it's not on a blood test. But when we look at the brain, it's right there, black. So if somebody comes to mind, go the extra mile, be that person that can change their life and say, hey, I want you to come in and do this. Hey, I'll pay for it. Or hey, whatever it is you want to do to help them out. Because our next one isn't until March. So you're going to have to wait a while. So I want to thank you all for being here and have a blessed day.